Page 19, lesson 1-3 is on adding integers. Rain increases the height of the water in a kiddie pool while evaporation decreases the height. The pool water level is currently 2 inches above the fill line. So if you look at this table, they're giving us part of these equations and we've got to fill in the rest of it. So for example, we've got 2 plus 0. We have a starting height of 2. The change is 0. Means our final height would be 2. 2 plus 0 equals 2. The next part, they are wanting us to figure out what was the change. So if the starting height was 2 and there was a change to where now our final height is 1. So that change actually would be a negative 1. 2 plus a negative 1 would be 1. The next one's filled out. 2 plus negative 2 equals 0. We had some more evaporation going there. Then we've got 2 plus negative 3 equals negative 1. And negative 1, by the way, if you look at the ruler over to the side here, it doesn't mean we have negative water in the pool. It just means we're below this fill line. Okay, we can be all the way up to 4 would be the top of the pool. The bottom of the pool would be all the way at negative 4. Okay? And then finally we have 2 plus negative 4. And that would equal negative 2. So the question here, it says look for patterns in the equations so you can fill in the missing numbers, describe any relationships you notice. So the starting heights were all the same. If you look at the change, look at these changes here. What was happening with those? So these, basically the change, it's getting 1 smaller each time would be one way of looking at it. We're losing 1 more inch of water each time we go here. And then, as you might expect, then our final height of the water is going down by 1 more inch every time. 2, 1, 0, negative 1, negative 2. So example 1, Nita wants to straighten a photo. She uses an app to adjust the tilt. What was the total tilt adjustment? So if you look here, it was set at 0. It's tilted a little bit. It's adjusted by negative 4 degrees. And then it's adjusted by another negative 6 degrees. So there's a couple ways we can look at this. One way the book's showing, they're looking at a number line. So if we're starting at 0, and then we adjust by negative 4. They went to negative 4 on the number line. And then from there, we're adjusting by negative 6. So we're going 6 more to the left, takes us to a negative 10. So basically what we did there, another way of thinking about that is we did negative 4 plus negative 6. Those two adjustments together add up to negative 10. So the total tilt adjustment was negative 10. The try Dana recorded a temperature drop of 2 degrees and a second temperature drop of 3 degrees. What is the total change in temperature? So a drop is going to indicate that it's a negative. So drop of 2 would be negative 2. Drop of 3 would be negative 3. So negative 2 plus negative 3 altogether would be negative 5. And we could say the sign of the sum is negative, and the total change in temperature is negative 5 degrees. example 2, Kara entered her chili recipe into the neighborhood cook-off. 9 judges rated each recipe with a thumbs up, +1, or a thumbs down, -1. What was the total rating for Kara's recipe? So before we even work this out, if we can look at this, we can kind of see whether she's going to have a positive or negative total score. And we can see that she is going to have a negative score because she has more negatives than she does positives. And that's how this is going to work with adding integers. If we have more negatives than positives, our answer will be negative. So what they did, they started on the number line, they started at 0, and they went 5 to the left to represent the -5, and then they went 4 to the right to represent the +4, and that brought them to -1. So -5 plus 4 is equal to -1. So the final rating for her recipe was -1. So here's some kind of rules that we can think about when we're adding integers. If we have the same signs, we are going to add and keep the sign. So we'll look at a couple of examples here. So 2 plus 3 you might have done once or twice before. That would be equal to 5. -4 plus -5 would be -9. And again, you can use number lines, especially at the beginning here, if that helps you to visualize what's happening. But hopefully these rules will help you think about this as well. If we have the different signs, then we're going to subtract and keep the sign of what you have more of. Subtract and keep the sign of what you have more of. So we'll look at some examples here. So for 4 plus -7, we can see that we have more negatives than positives. So our answer is going to be negative. And then if you kind of just ignore the signs for a minute, and you think of we had 7 negatives and we had 4 positives. If you take 7 minus 4 is 3, that means you have 3 more negatives than positives, so you would get -3. And again, we could do that on the number line as well. You could go 4 to the right and then go 7 to the left, and that would take you to -3 on your number line. Another example here, we've got -2 plus 10. So on this one, we have more positives than negatives, so our answer is going to be positive. You can put a plus sign there if you want, but if there's no sign, it's just assumed to be positive. And then we'll subtract those. So 10 minus 2 is 8, so a +8. One way of thinking about it, if you got different signs, it's kind of like these are working against each other. Positives and negatives, they're working against each other, and then you just see which one do you have more of in the end is what's going to win out. Another thing you can think about when you are adding integers, you could think about money. So negative would be like spending money or owing money, and positive would be like getting money. So if we go back to a couple of these examples, obviously 2 plus 3 is 5. -4 plus -5, another way of thinking about that would be like if you borrowed $4 and borrowed $5 more, then you would owe $9 altogether. 4 plus -7, you could think of if you had $4 and you spent $7. Well, you spent more than you have, means you're going to owe some money. You would have to have borrowed $3, so -3. And -2 plus 10 could be like if you owed $2 and then you got $10, you can go ahead and pay back the $2 that you owe, and then you'll still have $8 left over. You can think about temperature as well, like going back to that last example. If the temperature is -2 degrees and it rises by 10 degrees, then it would be a +8 degrees. Or the example before that, if the temperature was 4 degrees and it drops 7 degrees, then it would be negative 3 degrees. Example 3, playing golf, Mike got +2 on the first hole and -2 on the second hole. What is his combined score for the first 2 holes? So with golf, this is in terms of par. Par is kind of like an average of what they think it might take you to, how many times they think it might take you to hit the golf ball to get it in the hole. +2 means over par, means it took you, like +2 means it took you 2 more times, 2 more hits to get it in. -2, that's under par. That means it took you 2 less hits than what they thought it would. Okay, and again, it's just an idea. It just kind of all depends on how often you play golf and things, on maybe what your success rate would be with that. So what we're going to do here, we're going to looking at 2 plus -2, and those are actually called opposites of each other. So 2 plus -2, actually, we talked about if they're different signs, take the sign of what you have more of. Well, we have the same of both of them. So that adds up to 0. 2 plus -2 equals 0. Also, you could think of on the number line, you could go to the right 2 and to the left 2, and then that would take you back to 0. And again, the book talks about over here, if they have a sum of 0, they're called additive inverses or opposites. I like the term opposites better, but additive inverses means the same thing. So if you see that, just understand that's another synonym for opposites. So let's look at the try it. And now we've got a little bit more of a challenge. We've got a little bit higher numbers they're working with here. So they want us to find the sum for these expressions. So part A, we've got -66 plus 42. So for this problem, we have more negatives than positives. So my answer is going to be negative. And we just need to figure out how many more negatives we have. So we're going to subtract these. So 66 minus 42 is 24. And so the answer would be -24. Part B, we've got -57 plus 57. And this one, if we think about more positives or negatives, they're actually the same. We have opposites or additive inverses here, and so that would be 0. And part C, we've got 29 plus -28. So for this one, we have more positives than negatives, so our answer is going to be positive. And you subtract and you get 1, so our answer is 1 or a +1. Key concept just recaps what we've already talked about. The book gives a little different terminology talking about absolute values. And if you want to look at that, that's fine. Just different, a little different wording than what I had mentioned earlier. So on page 22, if we look at the do you know how, number 5, a shark swimming 60 feet below the surface of the ocean. There's a fish that is 25 feet deeper in the water. Use the expression -60 plus -25 to describe the fish's location relative to the surface of the ocean. So those are both negatives, and so they're working together. -60 plus -25 then would be -85. So -85 feet, or in other words, 85 feet below the surface of the ocean. Number 6, the high temperature one day was 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Then the temperature dropped 23 degrees during the night. Does the expression 30 plus -23 represent the temperature at night? And explain. And so if we're at 30 and it drops 23, if we add a -23, then yes, that would represent that temperature. 30 is representing the high temperature, -23 is representing the change. And they didn't ask for it, but we could work this out and figure out that it would be 7 degrees Fahrenheit. Workbook page 5, they want us to use a number line to help find the sum. So on number 1, 4 plus negative 7 is blank units from 4 in the blank direction. So what we're doing is we're starting out from 0, we're going to go to 4. And then from there, if we're adding negative 7, that's going to help us fill in these other blanks here. So from there, we would be moving 7 units from 4 in the negative direction. And so we can do that on the number line. And then they want us to use that to find the answer. So the answer then would be negative 3. Number 4, in Knoxville, the temperature rises 4 degrees from 4 to 5 p.m. Then the temperature drops 7 degrees from 5 to 6 p.m. So that's in Knoxville. In Cleveland, the temperature drops 6 degrees from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. and the temperature drops 2 degrees from 5 to 6 p.m. So the first part, they want us to come up with an expression that represents the change in temperature for Knoxville. So if it's rising by 4, that would be a positive 4, and then it drops 7, so we could say plus negative 7, and that would be our temperature change for Knoxville. And then part B, what integer represents the change in temperature for Knoxville? So in other words, if we work this out, 4 plus negative 7, that would be negative 3, which is telling us overall the temperature in Knoxville went down by 3 degrees during that time period. Part C, they want an expression for the change in temperature for Cleveland. So it's dropping by 6 and then dropping by 2, so that would be like negative 6 plus negative 2. And then part D, what integer represents the change in temperature for Cleveland? So if we work that out, that would be negative 8. So in other words, overall, in Cleveland, the temperature dropped by 8 degrees during that time frame. Number 5, Janet deducted $5 on Monday and another $6 on Tuesday from her savings account. Write an expression that represents the change in her account balance after the deductions. And then the last question, how much money did Janet deduct? So for our expression, deducted $5, that'd be negative 5, and then plus deducted another $6 on Tuesday, that'd be negative 6. One thing when I write these problems, I like to put parentheses around if that second number is negative, and then that way the negative doesn't actually blend in with our plus sign accidentally. So if we work that out, negative 5 plus negative 6 is negative 11. And if you want to, we can probably, would be a good idea to put the dollar sign on that as well. So negative $11. She deducted $11 altogether, then we could say. Number 10, Felix spends $150 each month for his gym membership, plus $30 each week for a personal trainer. A new gym charges $255 a month, which includes a weekly session with a personal trainer. So would Felix save money by switching to the new gym, and explain? So if you think about this, with the first gym, it's $150 a month plus $30 each week for a personal trainer. Everything else is in months except for that statement. So $30 a week. There's 7 days in a week. So if you think about it, 4 weeks would be 28 days. So that's the closest to what we've got here. Okay, just to say that there's about 4 weeks in a month. So if you did 30 times 4, that'd be $120 a month for the personal trainer. That's in addition to the $150 a month for the membership. So that would be $270 altogether. $270. The other gym, the new gym, is $255. So obviously 270 is more than 255. And if you subtract, that'd be a difference of $15. So would he save money by switching to the new gym? We could say yes. He would save $15 a month by switching. Okay, and we've got all our work to back that up. I mean, it might be good to say like this was the old gym maybe, and this is the new, the new gym they just told us was $270, or sorry, $255. And then there's kind of the steps of how we worked it out. I numbered those 1, 2, and 3. Number 12, they want us to draw lines to match each situation on the left with its addition expression on the right. So the first thing we have, Gail saves $14, then spends $14. So if we look through these answer choices, that's going to match up with the second option, 14 plus negative 14. Having saved $14 and then spending $14. Second one, a diver swims at 14 feet below sea level, then swims another 14 feet deeper. So that would actually match with the bottom choice here. So hopefully this will match with the one we've got left. Bailey owes $14, then earns $14. So owes $14, that'd be like a negative 14, and then earns 14. And so that would match with that one. Okay, a little easier to see here. I've got different colors, makes it a little easier to follow which one's going where maybe. So this gives you an idea of how to add integers.